Don't be shy.
I guess just your overall assessments on the season.
Like any season, ups and downs. Obviously saw some progress as an organization. Is it where we want to be? Absolutely not. We have to continue to get better. I think it's one of the things we have to talk about in the off season. Is not resting on where we are. You always have to evolve, because the reality is there's 8 other teams that are going to do the same thing, no matter if you won the Grey Cup or you didn't make the playoffs. And we're somewhere in between. We have one ultimate goal, just like 8 other teams do, and we have to continue to evolve and get better. I think with progression comes evaluation as well, right? And you have to see who has come up in what your expectations are as an organization and evaluate that and be honest where you're at as an organization. So excited to do that with Bob, with the staff. It started yesterday. We're a very open organization. I talked about it from day one, is we're going to have input and communication throughout this organization. You have to get that from players. You have to get that from coaching staff. You have to get that from operations staff. You have to get that from the personnel staff. So it's Bob and myself's job to garner that feedback. You use some of it, you don't use some of it when everyone's heard and part of the process, and then formulate a plan. But to sit up here today and assess what we have to do differently doesn't do justice to what I believe in, which is evaluating things, taking a holistic approach to it, coming up with a plan, much like we did the last offseason, and seeing how we have to improve.
What do you feel are the biggest areas you want to improve?
I wouldn't touch on areas, but what I would touch on is a theme, and if I had to use a word, it's consistency. I have a great deal of respect for some teams that have done it for a long time in this league. Obviously Winnipeg's a big example, and I think they're a consistent football team week after week. And consistency doesn't mean game day consistency. It means consistency 7 days a week in a prep week, 365 days a year in the season, and putting everything that makes us to be a better organization at the forefront. And that's not, obviously when I'm up here, people assume we're talking about players. It's from myself, from the medical staff, from the equipment staff, from the video staff, from the coaching staff, from the front office staff. It's consistency day in and day out of what we want to be. If we're a consistent football team with talent that we can bring in, with resources we're provided by ownership, we could be an organization that gets to that level of consistency. But we have to do it every day.
When did the conversation begin with the free agents that you have?
It's always ongoing, right? You saw in the season, we got a couple guys done. I don't like doing too much during the season. I do think, and I talk to the players about, there's an evolution of the off season. Everyone gets focused on obviously your big names, but the reality is that usually is your big names take the most work to get done, and they probably have a bit more of a give and take of what you have to do to get them done. Mm-hmm. Whereas you end the season and you have a practice roster, they're the free agents. You might see those guys get done, and then the reality is we have special teamers that are free agents, and their market's a little different. It's a little more set and defined, and it's easier sometimes to get those guys done earlier in the off season. For some of those guys, they might be more regional and when they want to play football and stuff like that. So that's just the things that go on through 9 teams, and then you get into the nuts and bolts of conversing with free agents. They've obviously earned the opportunity. Our league set up a certain way. Do I wish we were a league with longer term deals and those types of things like other leagues? Absolutely, but it's what makes our league great and a challenge, and you understand from the players' landscape of why it should be like that. So not begrudging their opportunity. They have to see what's available to them, what works for them, and it's a two-way street. I believe one of my strengths is working with agents and players and having ongoing dialogue. I don't get too up and down. It's never personal. It's always about really finding a win-win. That's what any type of free agent deal or any deal should feel like, is there's value for both sides, and sometimes you have to work longer and harder to get to it. And as you guys know, the reality of things is until there's a deadline, there's no real urgency until a deadline comes. So that's a long way off. But it has to start with evaluation for us and seeing how the pieces fit. You guys are around sports every day, specifically the CFL. It's the nature of the CFL. We're not going to have the same football team next year. Every guy that I just talked to in that meeting room knows that. Every guy across the league knows that. It's coming up with what you want to do and how you want to put your team together to make those decisions.
You have a couple of free agents, bigger name guys. Justin Hardy is 32 and there's really coming off of a serious injury. How do you approach competition with those guys, or do you think that you can bring those guys back?
As what they are, I can't say enough about either of them. I'll single-handedly say it publicly. Justin Hardy has been the best experience I've ever had with someone of his pedigree coming to the CFL. He played close to 50 NFL games, and how he came in with the process of, in his first year, not even playing much, and not changing day to day and not having expectations. And when I talk about consistency, he is consistency. And Justin knows how we feel about him. Darius, I think we had a very successful free agency period last year. Darius was obviously a key component of that. And again, probably different personality than Justin. You guys see that day to day. But the process for them being a pro and the expectations of what they want to bring daily, injuries always bring certain dynamics to things. Darius has an agent. We understand timelines and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you want to have football players in your building, and I can't see why we wouldn't look to retain either of those guys.
So I take it that the age of 32 doesn't turn you off in any way of Justin Hardy. You don't feel that he's getting...
I don't think he looks 32 on the field.
Were there any surprises that, you bring up, people being unjust, but any surprises from this year, whether positive, negatives, or players, anything like that that kind of caught you off guard, or you were just proud of, or just, happy to see?
Well, I'll never go negatives. Positives, evolution of some of our Canadian draft picks. Aiden John is a guy that got a big sample size, obviously, due to injury, but you saw some things out of him that paves the way down the road, and it validates what you're doing as your process, right? Zach Pelios continuing to grow and develop. Dante, when he got his chances in the lineup, played well for us. Lucas Cormier was a little bit injury riddled this year, but when he played, even seeing him run down there on teams and the athleticism he brings and what he did in preseason when he got a chance at linebacker. And then obviously from the American side, I'm proud of our group as a personnel staff of talent we've infused here. When you look at guys that are being talked about of, okay, these guys can be cornerstones here and can develop here, and for some of them maybe got it a little sooner than we were anticipating because of injuries, but Bennett Williams to Khalil Pimpleton to Andre Miller, DeAndre Lamont, Adrian Fry. I'm missing guys, but our process of evaluating talent and bringing in, we can't sit on it. I push those guys daily to have. We want to be reactive, proactive, not reactive as a personnel staff. And our jobs as a personnel staff is to try to push every veteran that's been here to find a replacement and then get beat up. And that's what this business is. So definitely see us making strides in that. I think you can see it with the number of guys that get picked up league-wide when we make releases or when it comes to free agency. That's usually a good sign of you have some talent in the organization.
You talked about consistency. It took you a few years to find a quarterback. How do you assess this season?
I'm challenged. I don't think it took a few years. It happened because of injuries. I think we always had some good quarterbacks here. But Drew, much like Darius and Justin that I was talking about, was everything is advertised. And comes to work every day, knows areas he needs to grow, is not willing to rest on laurels like I'm talking about. Young, can lead. Definitely excited to see him take a step next year with our organization.
How close were you to the Grey Cup, do you think?
It's always hard to tell. At the end of the day, we're 2 games away. And you gotta, your hope is you're only having to play 2 games, right? Montreal and Winnipeg are in driver's seats with winning divisions, and there's 9 teams. It's a competitive football league out there. I think 1 to 9 in this league, anyone can win any given week, and it's kudos for how they set up our league. And with salary cap, it shows it's working. It's kudos to the other teams throughout the league, and I think it's what fans want to see each week. You don't want to see teams that are out of race and can't compete, or teams that are running away with it every year. So we have to get better. At the end of the day, we can say we had the 5th best record or whatever it is. I don't even know what it is because I just focus on week by week. But at the end of the day, we have to put ourselves at the best spot to compete for Grey Cups, and that starts with home playoff games. That starts with winning divisions. The reality of that is when you do those things, it makes it easier to win.
What kind of priority do you place on a running game?
Definitely. I think we do some things offensively that supplements that with some of our quick game and screen game, and you look at the weekend and there's several other teams that were just around the same running numbers as us. The reality is we're different than American football. We're a 3-down football league, and you can't be in second or long all day, and that means passing a lot more on first down. But there's also what we want to be as an organization, as a physical football team. I believe in pounding the ball and wearing down your opponents, right? And you have to reward the O-linemen for their pass protection with letting them hit the other guys in the face sometimes instead of wheeling backwards. But the reality is, obviously that position would be looked at. We have what I look at as already signed free agent in Devontae Williams that will be back at camp next year, but he's coming back from a major injury, and our job, like I talked about, as personnel staffs, is to bring in competition each year, both via free agency and via scouting. So,
Can you confirm your contract situation, where you're at, how much you've got left?
I'll be back. I'm under contract. I hope to be here as long as I can. I think we have a great organization, great ownership, great support, great fan base, and looking forward to the future. And we'll work through those stuff. I'm not worried about where I am. I'm always worried about the men in that room.
Is that extended at all?
Not going to speak to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else, guys?
Thank you.
Thanks, Shawn.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.